What's going on, everyone? So, the draft is officially here. And with the draft being officially here, hopefully the Lakers make some type of move, right? So now the Lakers are kind of in the beginning stage where they can potentially make a move or two or several, right? Till draft day, they actually weren't allowed to trade their picks. Could they have, spit in a handshake type deals, had something lined up behind closed doors? Sure. But again, you're not going to announce that. You're not going to get that done until it's official. Could word have gotten out? Possibly. I mean, you've kind of heard murmurs already. Not necessarily of a deal being lined up, but the Lakers are kind of weighing their options between DeJounte Murray, Jeremy Grant, pieces like that. And you're starting to see deals get done, right? And I've seen a lot of people that are like, man, look, Mikal Bridges and Alex Caruso, and, how come the Lakers haven't gotten anything? Because, again, they can't necessarily do anything until all of their assets are available. Now, their picks will officially become available today, and then, yet more likely than not, aren't making a big splash without D'Angelo Russell and his decision, which he doesn't have to do anything till the 29th. So the chances, if we're being realistic here, right, and I do think the Lakers are going to make some trades. Will they make a trade today is the real question. Now, I think if they do make a trade today, it's probably a kind of marginal trade. For example, let's say the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe they get like a Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Are they going to land like DeJounte Murray? Are they going to land, a Trae Young? Are they going to land like one of these big marquee names? Probably not, because they're probably going to wait and see what happens with D'Lo. Because outside of that, yes, like DeJounte Murray, technically they could still get there. They get there, with Rudy and Gabe Vincent. But is that something that the Brooklyn Nets or the Atlanta Hawks would want, right? Would they really want Rudy and Gabe Vincent for DeJounte Murray? Or are they kind of like, no, we want D'Lo for his expiring contract? Because you got to remember, Atlanta, yes, they didn't want D'Lo at the trade deadline. Things have changed, right? Their original intentions were to keep Trae Young and also keep Jalen Johnson, right? They didn't want to trade any of those two guys. Now they're open to trading Trae Young. There's talks that they may end up trading both DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, especially because Trae doesn't want to go through a rebuild, and Atlanta's now got the number one pick, and they're planning on using it. They don't necessarily want to trade it, and if they do trade it, it's probably for something like, say, the Spurs, and they get number 4 or number 8, right? It'd be something like that. Their intentions are to kind of hit the reset button, much like, Chicago you're seeing, and as well as the Brooklyn Nets, which is good that all these teams seem to be kind of hitting the reset button on their franchises, because that gives the Lakers now an opportunity to jump in and maybe pick up some pieces, right? I've talked heavily how this is shaping up to be a seller's market, right? All these teams are starting to rebuild. There's a lot of supply out there. So the Lakers, more likely than not, are just going to stumble into a deal or two, is my guess. Now, look, Rob Pelinka, he has shown nothing's there. He's not going to take it, right? He's not going to force a trade. He's not going to force a move. There is always the concerns of like the Laker tax and, I also have the concerns because of the Mikal Bridges. Like the Alex Caruso trade kind of made everyone go, oh, wait a minute, maybe guys aren't as valuable as they once were, right? The new CBA makes things a lot more challenging, makes things a lot more difficult. Draft picks, especially like second round picks and stuff, are going to be perceived as more value, right? Like, so wait a minute, hang on here. Maybe we're going to actually be able to pull off some reasonable trades. And then the Mikal Bridges trade happened, and it was an absolute, like from an asset standpoint, an absolute fleece. The Knicks greatly overpaid. Now, who knows how this plays out, right? If the Knicks win a championship for the first time since like the 70s, no one's going to care. No one's going to be like, man, they overpaid for Mikal Bridges. Everyone's going to be like, Mikal Bridges was a great acquisition, right? If he's the difference in them winning a championship or not. So, just something to keep in mind. But it's very possible that that may have set the market. Now, there is also the alternative where you saw like with the Rudy Gobert trade, right? Minnesota greatly overpaid for Rudy Gobert, right? You can make an argument that maybe it worked out a little better. I still don't necessarily, I still think they could have used all those assets on something better, but neither here nor there. They were a team that was looking like they could contend for an NBA championship. So maybe in the long run it'll be worth it. We'll see. But like when the Rudy trade happened, everyone was like, "Oh no, the market that's the standard for the market. Look at what Rudy went for. Can you imagine what some of these other guys went for?" And then you saw like Kyrie and KD and some of these other guys go for like a normal package, right? Like even the Lakers were able to pull off a trade that people didn't think were going to get done, right? Like it didn't affect the market in the long run. Everyone just kind of came to this consensus that like, okay, that was an outlier. Right? Minnesota just got fleeced. That's all it was. Do teams look at this New York situation as like this was just the Nets kind of exploiting the Knicks? Also, you have the Brooklyn, New York type thing. It'd be like the Lakers and the Clippers, right? Like the Clippers aren't just going to give somebody to the Lakers, right? You're probably going to have to pay more because the Clippers hate so much rather than for another team, right? So you have like factors into it. The Knicks really wanted Mikal Bridges. Brooklyn just had this like insane standard, but the Knicks kind of you'll see on occasion team. I think people will probably be able to put that in perspective, so it might not make the impact, or at least that's my hope. We'll see. We'll find out. But if a trade does go down today, don't necessarily expect don't expect a DeJounte Murray or something. I would love it if it goes down, right? I'm not saying it won't or it can't. It absolutely can. But, again, I'm sure the Lakers and some of these other teams are probably going to wait to see what happens with D'Lo. Unless somebody just really wants Rui, right? Like if, say, Atlanta, they're like, man, we really want Rui. And what if they're like, we really want D'Lo too, right? Because, again, Trey very likely gets traded. So two things. One, they might want the salary dump. And two, they might go, hey, well, we're going to need a point guard for the year, right? So maybe they would be more open to doing something like that, to trade D'Lo later on down the line, and maybe that can convince D'Lo to opt in, because D'Lo could opt in at any moment, right? So maybe they could work something out. Or they could go the Gabe Vincent route. Maybe Atlanta goes, man, Gabe Vincent, he'd be cheap for the next 2 years. Maybe we could take that. We really like Rui, right? Like there's always possibilities and flexibility as to how things could go down, but temper the expectations, right? For a trade today. Now, couple things. One, it's a bit concerning that the Lakers didn't really work anyone out at 17. I mean, they did, but they worked out like a handful of guys. They worked out like 40 guys total. Like, they worked out a bunch of guys, but almost all of them were for the 55th to undrafted, right? Like second round guys and later, and potential undrafted guys. They only worked like a handful of 17 pick potential guys, which is a bit concerning given that, like, it really felt like they didn't do their due diligence, right? And it's like, were they just so distracted with everything else going on that like they weren't able to do these schedules? Are they really not really interested in anybody? Do they look at it as like whoever we draft, we're just going to take anyway? Or do they already have a sense, or maybe, like I said, a spit in a handshake type deal to get done, right? I wouldn't be shocked if the Lakers draft somebody today and it's not somebody that we expect. So, for example, let's say Zach Edey is on the board, right? If the Lakers have a deal worked out with DeJounte and they're just kind of waiting for D'Lo, right? It's kind of like, hey, if D'Lo gets done, we're going to do this. If D'Lo doesn't and he leaves, then we'll do this. A team like Atlanta, if they draft Sarr or Clegan or somebody like that, they're not going to want, more likely than not, a Zach Edey. So it's possible that the Lakers draft somebody out of left field that we're all like, why did the Lakers just draft that guy? And then like a week later, the Lakers end up trading that pick. Just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying that that'll necessarily happen, but again, don't be shocked, because the Lakers, they have to technically draft somebody to trade, right? So if they're working out a deal they're going to draft for that team. They're not going to draft who they want, who's best for their team, who they believe they should get. They're going to draft for that other team. So if D'Lo, or if a trade is done with or without D'Lo, if a trade is ready to be done and they're kind of just waiting on D'Lo, or it's getting ready to be finalized, the Lakers may end up drafting somebody that none of us see coming because it's for another team, right? Again, if Atlanta's like, hey, we have 3 centers, right? We don't need, a Zach Edey. So don't draft Zach Edey, draft this guy for us, right? Draft a Culver, right? Or whatever. And we're all just like, why didn't you take Edey? Why didn't you take where? Why didn't you? What are the Lakers doing? And then like an hour or two later, or maybe even a couple days later, breaking news, Lakers trade for DeJounte Murray or trade for Trae Young or whatever, right? Like, again, just something to keep in mind. I'm just kind of going over all the possibilities and potentials, because it is interesting to me that the Lakers didn't work guys out, right? It's like you'd think you'd work guys out a little more heavily, right? Like potential guys. They worked out like Zach Edey, like Ron Hollins, Culver, they worked out. I'm blanking on the other guys, but basically they worked out like literally like a handful of guys that could potentially be at 17. Right? Like literally, it's only like a hand, and almost all of them could potentially be off the board by the time the 17th pick comes. Which at that point, it's like, now what do you do? So a little concerning there, but if the Lakers again have a deal lined up, then that makes sense. So again, look forward to a trade. That'd be great, be awesome, but don't get your hopes up, right? Temper expectations. More likely than not, they're going to have to wait for all the dust to settle, what's going to happen with D'Lo. Again, they may do a minor trade. Maybe you'll see, like I said, a Dorian Finney-Smith or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, let's go, right? There could be a very small trade that gets done, but will there be this grandiose type trade, where it's like, oh man, Lakers just got DeJounte Murray and Clint Capella or something? Probably not. Maybe in principle, right? And it's something that'll be done later. But time will tell. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, for those that made it to the end of the video, I'm not going to stream during the draft just because it's hard. I got kids, family, life, and it's at like 5 o'clock. But I will, after the draft is over, I'll make the videos and stuff like that I usually make once the Lakers make their pick or trade or whatever. Look forward to that video. But after the draft is done and the dust is kind of settled, probably around like 8 or 9, I'll probably go, or more likely than not, going to go live at some point. So look forward to that live stream so we can talk, break down what happened one way or another, whether the Lakers draft somebody or they kept the pick. But again, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.